What happened after 83 days of no alcohol? You would have often heard that alcohol is a relationship killer and it destroys families and wealth and perhaps even careers and lives. I left alcohol for 83 days and something very strange happened. In fact, I lost some of my closest relationships. In this video, I'll share my story in the hopes that at least one of you out there might find some benefits from this. I'd be honest, it is embarrassing for me to go on camera and confess that this even was a problem for me. It took a lot of courage for me to produce this video and then share it with the world. I grew up in Delhi in the 80s and moved to the United States on a student visa when I was 21 years old. Back then, while I would drink occasionally, drinking was not as big of a challenge for me, and I don't believe I was an addict. After getting my master's in the field of engineering, I became a software engineer at a Japanese company in Dallas. And soon after, I pursued my MBA from UT Austin. I was very proud of my credentials, and while I was a smoker, drinking was never a habit that I had formed. I had tried weed 3 times in my life and hated the effects of it, so I never got into it. I started many businesses and failed, from selling comics as a toddler to supplying cigarettes as a teenager to importing jewelry from Jaipur to selling Motorola Razr phones on eBay. After just arriving in States as a student to a staffing business, moonlighting while getting my MBA. Everything I tried, I seemed to fail as I was overconfident. But finally, after I graduated from Macomb School of Business, I would launch a mobile app development company that would forever change my life. In the first year of starting Copper Mobile, I did $340,000 in revenue with $40,000 in profit. This was unbelievable, but what followed next year was out of the world. I booked $3 million in sales. I was just going with the flow and working hard. I used to smoke back then, but again, drinking was not a problem. Everything changed when I couldn't keep that growth trajectory in the following years. I thought from 3 million, I would go to 10 million the next year, and then 25 million, and then 50 million, and soon I would be a $100 million business in my 20s. I was so naive. As I scaled my business, things started to fall apart. I got into cash crunch, including not being able to pay salaries for my employees and borrowing money from my then wife. Sidebar: I married my college sweetheart, who I convinced coming to the US was a good idea instead of pursuing masters in India. Don't get me wrong, I had enough money every now and then, and somehow by taking a line of credit or debt financing, even as high as 30% per year interest, I kept the business afloat. But there was something inside me that knew the truth that I wanted to avoid, and that led me to start drinking. So when I turned 30, for the next several years, I had a drink every single day. Drinking was an escape for me, but I was lucky that nothing really bad happened, and I was able to keep my business running. Along the way, I also picked up the habit of smoking weed, and every day it was either alcohol or weed, or like the famous Drake song, both. I was lucky to have some amazing people join me as partners, so we were still learning from our mistakes and continued to power through, and eventually, by sheer luck and persistence, after 8 years of starting my business, I saw millions of dollars lying in my bank account. Don't get me wrong, I was learning a lot along the way. I was reading books, connecting with some fantastic people, and being very aggressive in my expansion strategy. From the 3 million in bookings in the second year and having a target of $10 million, I had still not cracked that in my mobile app business, but that was the main thing I was doing. Well, besides getting out of my marriage and failing another product startup and dating a lot of women, mostly lying to them about my promiscuity, a few years of accumulating the profits and paying off all the debts, I still had a couple $1 million at the beginning of the pandemic. And that's when I decided to get into foreclosure auctions. I was very lucky to start buying these properties at a time just before the real estate boom, and hence I turned that $2 million of investment into a real estate portfolio of almost $10 million. This was insane. This is when I realized that I had made it, and I started to build on my meditation practice and really started to figure out what I wanted from my life. I wanted to have a purpose, a meaning, and something that could give me joy constantly and consistently. I was still naive and thought dating more women and traveling the world would be what would give me joy. Now I had my American passport and I thought about moving to Europe for good. I was on dating sites and even had signed up for some matchmaking companies, but still, I was drinking and smoking weed this whole time. I had this period of 5 months when I didn't smoke weed and did not drink any alcohol, but relapsed when life threw a few challenges my way. I developed some infection in my intestine for which I had to undergo a surgery, and that was my excuse to smoke weed to numb the pain. But with weed, you lose the motivation to work, and I would become very nonchalant, plus I would eat like a pig. If I wanted to continue to look good and date, I had to stop smoking weed, but that led me to drink excessively. I would leave drinking beer and find more effective ways to limit my caloric intake by drinking scotch or vodka and Diet Coke and try to eat within limits. I would oscillate between 160 pounds to 200 pounds throughout that period. My brother was like me. He also was an addict, alcohol and other substances too. One day while traveling to Europe, I got the bad news that my younger brother had passed away. That shocked me, and I headed straight to my home in Dallas, where my mom, dad, and his wife and kid were waiting for my arrival. One of my best girlfriends, and then eventually another girlfriend, also made their way to support me through this difficult time. But after a week of his passing, I started smoking weed again to numb the pain. This was exactly what some other girlfriends had asked me not to do. Finally, after around 5 weeks of my brother's passing, I decided to go for Vipassana meditation in Houston for 2 days. I could do it for 2 days because I had done a 10-day course and I was already a part of their system. I had quit alcohol while I was there, and since then, 83 days have passed as of this recording, and I have not had a drink or smoked weed. This has changed my life, but in a counterintuitive way. See, when I was drinking, my way of enjoyment was to go out and party and get drunk and have a great time with one or more of many girlfriends that I was dating. But now, after quitting, I had to find new ways of looking forward to something. I had to leave the women who enjoyed drinking with me because of the risk of relapse. I joined therapy and started talking to my therapist every single day. I realized that I could do this, and my life started to change. Some of my girlfriends also supported me and also quit drinking with me, but I realized that I had been dishonest about how much I loved them. Don't get me wrong, I was still there for them and I loved them all, but after quitting drinking, I realized that I didn't really love them, but I was exaggerating my feelings to get more love from them. I was never honest about how I truly felt with them. If convenient, I would lie to them. In my head, I would consider these white lies, justifying to myself that I really didn't want to hurt their feelings by admitting to them my truth. I realized that lying leads to chaos and unnecessary complications. As I started to become truthful, I lost most of my relationships as my girlfriends couldn't trust me anymore. Here I am today, so privileged that I had the parents that taught me the importance of studying and made me feel like I was so special, in fact, one of a kind. I had financial independence, I own 24 properties, I'm starting a real estate foreclosure fund for $100 million next Monday. I invested $200,000 in a product startup that seems to be doing good. I have a healthy rent roll, good cash flow, my YouTube channel with over a dozen people helping me with script writing to video editing to social media posting. On paper, I seem like I have everything going for me, but only after quitting alcohol, I have the true quiet confidence. I'm not afraid and second-guessing myself. So my advice to others like me or the younger people, stay away from alcohol and weed. Meditate as much as you can so you can see things as they are. Go for a 10-day detox at this free Vipassana course that's available all over the world, and you would get all the answers. You would know what you need to do consistently for a long time to get that compounding effect and be successful in life. As for me, I think I used to think I cannot be monogamous. And that still might be true, but I'm open to the idea of finding a relationship of equals. Someone who meditates, enjoys hiking, traveling, has a purpose and a passion that she can commercialize. She's into fitness and is kind and compassionate. I don't know where my life would take me, but one thing is for sure. Leaving alcohol, and after 83 days, I feel alive and ready to solve my challenges. Thanks for watching this video, and if you'd like me to elaborate on more aspects, then write down in the comments, or else just request for a live session where I can take more questions from all of you. See you in the next one. Goodbye.